I finally shut the curtains back there, so there you go. I'm glad for that one. So, as I was saying in the last video, never, never, never follow someone who has 1 million followers. That is a sure sign. It is so sure, you know, no one who is human is going to have 1 million followers. No one. No one, no one, no one, no one, no one. Period. Point blank. If they have reached 1 million followers, just be okay with the fact that you're watching an NPC. Be okay with the fact that you're watching a Vril. Be okay with the fact that you're literally watching an alien. This is how insidious and, subversive, and how it's like poison in a human body. Literally, I don't know how else to put it. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. So I don't care if you are a huge fan. You know, and by the way, I went looking for people who had, 100 followers or less on YouTube just recently. And YouTube won't even offer that anymore. It won't even offer that anymore. It offered a whole pile of how to get viewers videos, a whole pile of grinding videos. It didn't show a single solitary person that I wanted. All I wanted was people who had less than 100 followers, less than 50 followers. I wanted to actually reach actual human beings, and YouTube wouldn't show me that anymore. That is how controlled they have the system. That is how controlled they have the system. Just the fact that they cut off TikTok here proves it. So anyone who's reached 1 million followers, even if you're best friends with them, realize that, do you have 1 million followers? Seriously, do you have 1 million followers? No, you don't. Do you? Proof right there. Proof right there. Literally. And I haven't really found any exceptions to the rules so far. I'd like to say that the only two exceptions might be going viral overnight, as they call it, or, which did happen at the beginning, at the very beginnings of YouTube. That did happen. But a lot of the actual people, you know, that were doing anything on YouTube are pretty much gone now, or at least they're doing something entirely different than what they started with, than their channels originally were, you know? And on top of that, I want to say the only other exception is when they grow so slowly that it literally takes 15 to 20 years to even reach 1 million followers. And even then it's popping up and down, and it's not, you get a million and then you go below it, and then you get a million and then you go below it. And yet their video view count doesn't really reach over like 300,000 a video. And it's because YouTube is nuking their account because they're an actual human. I want to give exceptions to them, those two categories, but currently I can't. Because currently, from my own personal experience being on YouTube, being on Instagram, being on TikTok, is that you will not get anywhere near 1 million followers. No matter how consistently and how wonderful your posts are, you will not get 1 million followers at any point in time unless you are a brother of the serpent, a son of the serpent, or a serpent themselves, a underground reptile, a vril themselves. Those are the only entities, non-people, but entities, or, slave to the serpent, a human being, brothers of the serpent and son of the serpent, because that's what those human beings are. They're slaves to the serpent, willingly. But that is the only way that you will ever get 1 million followers on any of these platforms, and any new platforms too. Literally, point blank. So, sad but true. Also, something else I learned: truth hurts. If it doesn't hurt horrifically, then it ain't the truth. So there you go. So, These vril, these non-player characters, these non-humans, they do not grieve. And they will be the first person to tell, an actual human being who is grieving. They hate crying. I've noticed that. They despise crying. They despise depression. Because depression stops people from moving. It stops them from being active. They hate crying and they hate depression. They want you to be active. They want you to be an active little worker. They love happiness. They love fear. They love anger. Anger especially, because it gets people up and moving. And it gets people up and doing all kinds of instantaneous work. But they don't like depression and they don't like sadness because it stops you from moving and it stops you from doing any kind of work. That is why they now in the diagnostic manual, they see depression as a threat to society, and they give the definition of a terrorist. They don't call them terrorists, but they give the definition of a terrorist for anyone who's depressed. They say, oh, they could kill someone. Oh, they could harm someone or themselves. No, no, no. Someone who's depressed is more often than not going to go to work. They're not going to be able to get up out of bed. That is a depressed person. A depressed person is not going to be harming someone else or themselves point blank. Anyone who says otherwise is a vril. Anyone who says otherwise is an NPC, non-player character. Literally. So they will be the first persons to tell someone, whatever. They will be the first ones to tell someone not to grieve. Grieve whatever. They will be the first one to tell a person to just move on, to get over it, to let it be, like water off a duck's back. They will be the first ones to tell you, you're too sensitive. They will be the first ones to tell you you're emo or emotional. The fact that they have weaponized the term emo and emotional shows how evil they are. Emotionalism is good. Being emo is good. They're the ones who have weaponized that term and turned it into a negative thing. And one of the big reasons, okay, so back to my notes. When a human being has lost a loved one, even someone that they didn't particularly like and abused them, they will be emotionally upset about it, and they will be sad to some point. All right, to some extent, even if it's an odd, messed up thing because the relationship was so messed up, they will be sad. And an NPC player, a non-player character, a vril, will be the first person to tell them to move on, to get over it, to not grieve, to not cry. They are bent on people not crying. They are bent on people not being depressed. And this is because they do not experience death. The second I've seen any of these vril experience death, they do such horrible things to the poor human. It is awful. They always blame a human. They never blame each other, even though they are the ones to blame. And they're just so horrible. But vril, underground reptiles, they do not experience death. They don't. And so, they have no reason at all to tell you, to grieve, to get it out. In fact, human beings are the ones that said, get it out, grieve, cry, In fact, these NPCs would rather tell you to take some time alone rather than hug you. They will never hug you. They will never, and if they ever give you a hug, it will be the creepiest thing in the world. You can feel the evilness from them. Even if it's after the hug, you will be, because their vibes are different. In other cultures, they will be the ones pointing fingers of blame, saying that so-and-so is not grieving enough or properly. Oh, yeah, that's like in Kim Jong-il or whatever. What is it, North Korea? So I actually took in North Korea into account for that one. So, but yeah, literally. The only way that they will ever use grieving in, I gotta cut this off, darn it.